Hi all, and welcome to the latest edition in the SAMPS Webinar Series. Today we are presenting with AZoNetwork, the State of Scientific Marketing in 2024. Their team has graciously agreed to join us. We're just going to take a couple of minutes here, let folks filter in, get comfortable in our virtual environment. Lots of attendees, lots of registrants today. We're really excited about this. And definitely thank you to Sarah, to Alex, and to Torsten for joining us. Right, so that's a little bit of time there. Definitely see a quorum of folks on the line. So again, thank you. I'm Adam Smartin from Altitude Marketing, just serving as an introducer here today for the main stars of the show, Sarah, Alex, and Torsten from AZO Marketing. Again, this is part of the SAMPS Webinar Series. If you do find this content interesting as we go along, and I really think you will, this is some pretty great stuff from AZO. You can check us out at samps.org, register for any future webinars, and check out some more of our original content. But with that, Sarah, I'm going to hand it over to you. Go ahead and take it away.
Brilliant. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Adam, for the introduction. I want to first introduce the survey in case you are unfamiliar with it. So the State of Scientific Marketing Industry Survey has compiled feedback from over 100 marketing professionals in the science, engineering, and healthcare spaces. And our objective is to identify the latest trends and challenges faced by those marketers working in these sectors. This is the 5th edition of the report, and we hope it will offer valuable insights into the landscape of scientific marketing, helping you to plan and strategize for 2024. The 2023 report highlighted the industry focus on SEO, trade shows, and email marketing. This year, unsurprisingly, AI tools have emerged as a significant player. The AZoNetwork team has delved into how scientific marketers are leveraging artificial intelligence to assist and streamline their tasks. And although we don't consider ourselves AI experts yet, we have been experimenting with a lot of the tools that I'm sure you are familiar with, and others that maybe you're not. And we'll chat a little bit more about those in my AI section a little later. So, in the age of AI, authentic and trustworthy content is more important than ever, and that is reflected this year, with building credibility and trust up from 59% from last year's report to 72.5%. Lead generation and inbound sales continue to be a strong priority throughout the years. However, building a subscriber base is down significantly, with 23% not even considering it as part of the 2024 goals. And whilst the goals may have changed slightly, the tactics used to achieve those goals have remained fairly consistent. SEO, content creation, and email marketing continue to be the top 3. Trade shows and webinars are around the same as each other, but interesting to see organic social media at over 50%, which is a big jump from last year. So that should give you a little overview of the research. And I will now hand over to my colleague Torsten to get things started. He's going to be talking about email marketing. And I'll move over into the chat if anyone has any points, thoughts, or questions. Over to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, so we got some really interesting feedback in the survey in regards to email marketing. Taking a look, we can see that 55% of respondents said that email marketing was going to be a high or very high priority for the coming year. When you consider the return on investment in email marketing, it really shows that it's not something that can be neglected or left out of your marketing mix. There's some really great bang for your buck in email marketing, and it's easier than ever to get started. So there's some really good tools and services you can use to help you out if you're not doing any email marketing at the moment. Interestingly, on the right-hand side here, we can see that only 35% of respondents said that building their subscriber database is going to be a high priority. As an email marketer myself, this is a bit strange because for me, both these activities, building your subscriber database is a core part of email marketing activities. If you're not actively building your subscriber database, then it is actually getting smaller. You've got to consider that people retire, people change jobs, and when that happens, their email addresses are no longer active. So your subscriber database, your list that you can send emails to, is actively getting smaller unless you're doing something to replace those subscribers. So yeah, making sure that you're increasing the number of subscribers that you've got access to is going to really help increase the impact and your reach. Moving on to the next slide, we can see that the different types of emails that people have been focusing on and prioritizing. Right at the top of the list there, we've got product emails, followed by newsletters, webinar invites, and event invites. It doesn't necessarily surprise me to see that product emails are right at the top there. They're the most popular types of emails that marketers are sending out. You know, we're all in the business of selling. So, you know, the most obvious and easy way to do that, you might think, would be to put your products and services in front of your subscribers, and then, you know, that's going to lead directly to sales. And whilst that is true, I do think it's a bit of a lazy strategy, and there might be a bit more room for a more nuanced strategy there. So what does that look like? So you've got to consider that not all your subscribers are going to be in a position where they're ready to make a purchase. In fact, I'd say the majority of your subscribers are probably not going to be in a position where they're ready to make a purchase. A lot of subscribers are they're on your subscriber list because they've at some point registered for something, and they've just kind of indicated that they're interested in some kind of service that you have to offer. But what you need to be making sure that you're doing is that you're catering to all your subscribers in your database, not just the ones that are able to make a purchase at any given time. So if we break that down, what does that look like? So if you're sending about 50 to 60% of your email output, that should be looking at more educational content. So things like ebooks, white papers, blog posts, content that really demonstrates that you as a company, you know what you're talking about, and you have answers to your subscribers' questions. You can solve their problems. Really building confidence in your subscribers, and really showing them what you can offer. Following on, 20 to 30% of your email output should be product focused. So you are still catering to those subscribers that are in a position to buy. And then the remainder should be company updates and announcements and things like that. So just to recap on that, that's 50 to 60% of your email output should be educational in nature. 20 to 30% should be product focused, and then the rest you can fill up with company updates and things. On the right-hand side here, you can see we've got a bit of information about the frequency of newsletter sends and email sends. Great to see that a lot of people are sending either weekly or monthly, but then also quite a lot of people that either don't send newsletters or only when necessary. So while it's true that there's no one size fits all when it comes to email send frequency, it's going to vary depending on the company and depending on the relationship that you've built with your subscribers. I'd recommend testing out to try and find the ideal frequency. So maybe for a few months, you can test sending emails once a week. And then for another few months, you can test sending them out every couple of days or something like that, just to try and find what is the best frequency for you and what you can get the most impact with. So whilst that's true, I think what I would say is that one of the most effective things you can do is to set up a schedule. Once you've decided on how often you want to send emails, if you set up a schedule, that's going to have a big impact. That not only sets expectations with your subscribers, so they kind of have an idea of how often they're going to be receiving emails from you. But it also forces you to stick to the schedule and make sure that you're not neglecting that marketing channel. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. We can take a look at some open rates. So just a small note here, really. This is fairly typical of what we'd usually expect to see. So a lot of people getting 21 to 25% open rates. That's pretty good. That's pretty standard. That's what we'd hope to see. Generally, anywhere between 15 and 25%. That's fairly standard, and so what we'd expect to see. More than 25%, you're doing great. You're knocking it out of the park. If you're getting less than 15%, there's a couple of things I would suggest that you take a look at. Firstly, you'd want to check out the health of your subscriber list. So as I was saying before, if you've got email addresses that are no longer active or no longer maintained, that's going to be having a big impact on your open rate. So a lot of email marketing platforms, they have tools and services that help you maintain the health of your list and remove old email addresses that are no longer active. And also by removing those, you're actually going to help improve your spam filter score as well. So making sure that your list is healthy is going to help you bypass spam filters and things like that. The other thing you probably would want to take a look at is the content that you're sending to your subscribers. If you're only sending one type of email to your subscribers, let's say you're only sending product emails, you're kind of setting an expectation with your subscribers. You're setting, you're demonstrating that the content you're sending them, it's not necessarily valuable to them, it's not relevant to them. So they've kind of built up the picture that whatever's in the email you've sent them is not going to be that interesting. So they're probably not going to open it. So maybe reevaluating your content strategy, trying to add in a bit more variation in the types of content that you're sending out, just to try and build a bit more engagement and interest in what you're sending your subscribers. And then moving on to the next slide, if we can. So here we've got a few examples of some of our recent newsletters that we've sent out. Each of these was sponsored by our clients, and these all did quite well. They all generated over, I think, 500 leads for our clients. So I thought it might be useful to take a look at some of the lessons we can learn here. So you can see overall the broad picture, they're all quite educational in nature, and they have quite a broad appeal. And they really demonstrate to the subscribers that the companies are thought leaders, and that our subscribers should be going to them if they have any problems or they're looking for solutions in those specific areas. You can also see that 2 of them are ebooks. We find that ebooks work really well. Subscribers like having something they can download and they can potentially refer back to at some point in the future. So yeah, we find we're always trying to encourage our clients to, if they don't already have ebooks, then to make ebooks and then use them effectively in email marketing, because they always do really well. Another thing you can see here is we've used the word free. I think potentially in the past, there's been maybe some negative connotations about using the word free in email marketing, but we find that it has a real strong emotional impact and it really connects with subscribers. So particularly when you use it in the right context, it can be really effective. And then moving on to the next slide, the last slide. So we put out a email marketing guide last year. I really recommend you check that out. I think you can download that on our website. And that's got some really useful tips and tricks that you can use in your own campaigns. So for example, we did a lot of analysis on our email output, and we analyzed all of our subject lines. And you can see here that when we use words like an introduction or an ebook, they have quite a positive impact on the open rate. So yeah, a lot of kind of interesting things there that you can pick out might be useful to you. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you very much. And I'm now going to pass it over to Alex.
Thanks, Thorsten. So we're going to talk a bit about paid search now, but mostly Google Ads. So quick snapshot of some of the results from the survey. 36% of respondents said that their advertising budget allocation for paid search increased in 2023. And on a similar vein, 38% of respondents said that paid search was either a high or very high priority for 2024. So with that in mind, we're going to lay out a few tips and a few kind of potential pitfalls and things to keep note of when you're creating any kind of Google ads. And these can also be applied to just paid search overall. So you start with your ad. You have the URL you want to direct to, or you have a vague idea of the content that you're trying to push. You have to then select your keywords. Now, with keywords, there are kind of three main factors you have to think about. You have the relevance of the keyword. So how, when someone searches your keyword, do they get results that are relevant to your field, to your brand, etc., etc. You have to think about search volume. Are people actually searching this? Because if no one ever searches it in an entire year, probably not the best one to target. And then thirdly, you also think about the intent of a keyword, but we'll hit upon that in a second. So you need to strike a good balance between relevance and search volume. It's great to have high search volume is ideal, but if your keyword, if people searching that keyword are not looking for anything related to your product or your brand, it's not particularly useful. The quickest way to check relevance is simply go on incognito on Chrome or the equivalent on your browser, pop in the keyword and see what results come up. And if the results that come up are relevant, hey, that's probably a good one to target. So it's you need to strike that balance between the volume and the relevance, but that's not to say you can't have highly relevant keywords that also have a high search volume. It's more of a sort of judgment call that you gain with experience, but equally sometimes you can just see. And then, so the other factor I mentioned earlier was keyword intent. So broadly, you can separate keywords into commercial, informational, and transactional. There are definitions in the corner of the slide there. So with this in mind, when you're selecting your keywords, you want to kind of skew the intent of your keywords to the aim of your campaign. So if you were looking at a brand awareness campaign, you'd have a tendency to move towards more commercial and informational keywords. Whereas if you were, say, doing an ebook download, to take Torsten's example, you'd go for a more transactional one because you're aiming to get people in and looking to download this ebook. That said, it is important to keep a good mix of all keyword intents within an ad, because not everyone who is searching a transactional keyword will necessarily immediately want to download it. It can help, but if you cast a wide net, it won't cost you too much more, but it can help get you more, in this instance, more leads. So it's important to just keep to cast a wide net in order to keep the performance up. So after you've got your keywords set, you then have to go about constructing the rest of the ad. So the main sections of the ad to take note of are the headlines and the descriptions. So the headlines are kind of like the title of the ad, and the descriptions are the main body text of the ad, so they give you information on what there is. There's also lots of supplemental elements of ads. You can add your logo, you can add your business name, you can add site links. We won't touch upon those today, but they are highly useful. I would recommend you add them, but within the Google Ads interface, they're a lot more self-explanatory. So there isn't too much to take note of there. So the key thing with the main construction of your ad is what we call keyword synergy. So you want to have, ideally, as many of your keywords appearing in the titles and the descriptions of your ad. Now, there's a few caveats there. You don't want to be seen to be keyword stuffing, and you want to make sure your ad still is clear and makes sense. So those are two pitfalls to watch out for and make sure you avoid. But the two main reasons we want this keyword synergy is, one, the user needs to know what the ad's about. It needs to be able to see the ad, very quickly understand what it's showing, and then they can decide, hey, I'd like to check this out, or I don't. If it's unclear, one, you're likely to turn away people who would be interested. And two, you may get people who are entirely irrelevant to your ad clicking on it. And that will cost you money for someone who they might be just completely unrelated. They might be a teenager in school. And then the other, and this is probably the main reason, is that the Google algorithm loves it. It's much like on-page meta. It loves a good bit of keyword synergy. It will give you a higher ad rank. And if you have a higher ad rank, you are more likely to serve your ad at any given price point against your competitors. So let's say you had a competitor who, for whatever reason, was bidding on the exact same keywords, exact same budget, and that ad was very, the only main differentiator there is the ad. And if you have a higher ad rank, because you have a good keyword synergy and a good through line, you would be more likely to show them than them. So that is, oops, sorry, that's another key point to consider. And then once you're happy with that, once you've constructed your ad, there's a few other things you do. You set your budget, you choose the geography it's displaying in, you give it a name, and all that stuff. And once your ad is live, you then have to think about measuring performance and any changes that you may have to make. So we like to separate it into sort of four main points here. So it's key to have your overall goal in mind for your ad campaign. And this is probably the most important. Before you ever make any ads, you should make sure you have your conversions set up properly within Google Ads. You can either create them natively. There's multiple options. You can add tags to your website. You can use Google Tag Manager, or this is probably more applicable. You can import them from your analytics platform, obviously Google Analytics, Adobe, etc., etc. Make sure you have those set up before you start doing any ads, because they're a huge KPI and they're a really good way to assess performance. And then the two remaining other key factors are patience, which we'll touch upon later, and optimization. So when you're looking at performance, you have to think about your overall goal. Again, harkening back to how you select keywords, if you're just looking for brand awareness, you have to know your key metrics. So if you're looking for brand awareness, you're perhaps not that worried about conversions, but they're a nice bonus. So still take note of them, but you're really looking at how many people your ad is reaching, impressions, how many people are clicking on the ad, clicks, and then how many of those impressions become a click, which is a CTR. So those are sort of your key metrics there. Whereas going back to the ebook download example, your key metrics there, you're trying to generate lead data, you're trying to get people's data in. You're going to look at conversions, conversion rate, and the cost per conversion. So it's important to know your key metrics are, what your key metrics are when you're assessing performance of your ad. So in the image on the slide, we had a client who they weren't happy with how their ads were doing. We took a look at them and they just weren't running. They wanted to get conversions, but their ad wasn't built to get conversions. The keywords didn't work for it, the verbiage didn't work for it, and it was unclear. So we adjusted it. We set up a new ad. We were getting less impressions. The CTR stayed about consistent, but we got a lot more conversions, which ultimately was their key thing. So you have to know which of the metrics are more important to you for a specific campaign. And then moving on to patience and optimization. So there are lots of things you can do to optimize ads. You can look at badly performing keywords, badly performing headlines, badly performing descriptions, and all the other supplementary things, images, site links that I mentioned earlier. And I would encourage you to look at them, play around with them, see what you can do with them. Google Ads provides a huge amount of data that you can use to pass through what's doing well and what isn't doing well. But what I would strongly suggest is having patience in the first run. So Google says, their own documentation says, when you first set up an ad, it takes about 2 to 4 weeks to optimize it. So it will test all of your headlines, all of your descriptions, find which ones work the best. And from there, it will decide which ones to display more because they perform better. It says this takes 2 to 4 weeks, but in my experience, it's closer to sort of 3 to 5, 4 to 6 weeks. So even though the temptation is there to micromanage your ads, constantly look at them. And it's great if you want to constantly look at them, but try to make as few changes as possible in the beginnings of a campaign. Once you have more data to pull upon, you can be a bit braver with changes, but in the initial stages especially, you have to have patience. And if you are going to make changes, make sure you're decisive with them. Don't add a few keywords, 2 days later, turn around and say, no, I don't want those keywords anymore, and remove them, because what you're doing then is essentially just kicking the optimization can down the road. You're not going to get good data. And equally, if you feed Google bad data, it won't be able to perform to optimize as well in the future either. So it's important to start with good data and therefore keep going on that track. And at the end of the day, we have to remember that Google makes money from the ads that we run on their platform. So they're never going to try, the algorithm is trying its best to get you the best possible results because that makes them more money. So you just have to learn how to leverage their tools to your advantage. And as hard as it can be, because at the end of the day, you're spending your money on it, it's very, very key to have patience with your ads so you can really see the effect of your changes. So these are just a few kind of key takeaways, a few tips, and a few key factors to think about when you're looking at ads. Thanks for listening, and I'm going to hand over to my wonderful colleague, Sarah, now.
Thank you, Alex. So as I said before, I'm going to be talking about AI and how we can leverage it. So let's start taking a look at the survey results. The first question was, which AI platform have you used at work? And it's good to see over 2/3 of respondents are familiar with at least one, ChatGPT. Interesting to note as well, 30% of marketers haven't used any AI tool yet. Then we can see other AI platforms I have never heard about. Again, very interesting personally, having a look at some of these when I was working on this presentation. And when asked what they've used AI for, responses were well spread between generating content, repurposing content, and finding information. I'd love to know how many of you have found ChatGPT useful in your day-to-day tasks. So please let us know. Right, this part was quite intriguing to work on. When asked to provide an estimate of hours a week saved using AI, the majority said they saved between 4 and 8 hours. However, the answers were very varied. I wanted to take a deeper look and try and find a correlation between how often our responders use AI and how much time they were saving. However, I could not find a strong correlation. So this means that using AI more often doesn't necessarily mean you will save more time. It suggests that maybe a strategic approach to these tools might be the way to go. So in the next few minutes, I'd like to share a few use cases where I found AI could really make an impact on my day-to-day workload. I like to preface this by saying AI is not a replacement of unique and genuine experience and knowledge. And you will see in all of these examples, the starting point is your own handcrafted content. So for example, you can use AI for content creation, but that doesn't mean you can use any content generated by any prompt. We have found the best results come from well thought out and meaningful prompts. Here in the slide, you can see an example for a mock-up press release for an analysis equipment company. Any similarity to actual companies or products is purely coincidental. So let me share a few prompting tips. State clearly what you would like ChatGPT to produce, in this case, a press release. To better tailor the tone, include the intended audience. And temperature. The temperature indicates the level of randomness we allow ChatGPT to achieve. So it's a number between 0 and 1. The closer to 0, the more factual, direct, and predictable the answer will be. And the closer to 1, the more creative and random, but maybe also a bit nonsensical. Also, adding partial content, even if it's just a list of USPs or a few key points, will help ChatGPT generate better and more authentic content. So suggest titles and include the facts you want to add. Also add your call to actions and any other content that you really don't want to miss. And keep trying. Trial and error is an essential element of the scientific process. So keep perfecting and refining your prompts until you get the result you're looking for. And additionally, you can and should use the generated result just as a starting point and then add you or your company's own genuine spin. So as we've seen in this example, we've used these tips and asked ChatGPT for a press release. And ChatGPT has structured it, added suggestions for us to fill in, like a date and a quotation from a key scientist, etc. So we have given it the ingredients needed for a genuine and trusted press release, and the tool has prepared them according to our instructions. I would recommend then reading through the output and giving your own spin to any content you generate. However, where I think AI truly shines is repurposing content. In this example, we created a blog interviewing the creators of our something about science podcast. To repurpose it into a social media post, we just politely asked ChatGPT to check the link and write a post about it, with a few directions, of course, like the temperature and a call to action, and it generated a wonderful social media post. Other software like Adobe has incorporated AI-powered tools to make your workflow more seamless. In this example, I use Premiere Pro to auto-generate captions for my videos. It's a great tool. It matches the pacing and the cadence, and it works really well with different accents. I can then edit any mishaps and format it as I wish. It saves me a lot of time, so I really recommend it. And Opus is another tool we use, where you can upload your long format videos, like an hour-long interview with our CEO. We can choose the clip length and the preferred style, and it generates small video snippets that we can embed on blogs and share on social media. All captioned and formatted for you. It's a great tool. And here are the results. If you have followed us for a while, you know how much we bang on about repurposing your videos and sharing them everywhere. So with Opus, you have no excuses to not give it a go. In conclusion, AI is not, and I don't think it will be anytime soon, a replacement for genuine human experience, but it can leverage processes to remove some of the more boring and mundane tasks from your desk. Again, you get the most unique and genuine results when you input unique and genuine content. And all the time you save on repetitive tasks, you can then dedicate to creative tasks, which is where marketing really shines. And this is the end of our presentation. This is all the highlights that we wanted to share. Thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you have a wonderful day, night, whatever you're joining us from. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.